a super quick review of what we have seen so far. So the idea of a graphical user interface is to not use this elementary character-based interface using scanner class and the print line. Instead, we want to have a user interface that is graphical. It uses components such as combo boxes, date pickers, menus, list boxes, buttons, check boxes, and so on. So we give the user a much richer and a much nicer user experience instead of giving them this black scary screen that we have been seeing in previously. And JavaFX, this is where it excels. So JavaFX comes with a list of pre-built components, a lot more than what I showed you here. This is just a sample. Some pre-built components that we can basically compose and use to build our user interface, and then program the event handlers. Now, in terms of programming model, I have adjusted this a little bit more to make it clearer. So a graphical user interface is made up of one or many windows. In JavaFX, we call this windows stage. And now when I look deeper, it is very smart naming. Although in the beginning I wasn't like very impressed with the name. But when I look deeper, it is a name from somebody who really has some kind of artistic taste. So what the analogy here from where they got these names is that if you go to a theater, as an example, when you walk in there, what do you see in the theater? A stage. And then when the masrahiyya, which is start, when the play starts, so it's basically a series of scenes. Okay, and sometimes they close the curtains to prepare the others. So if you look deeply when you are interacting with an application, as if you are following a theater play, and it's made up of scenes, if you look carefully. So for example, the first scene, typically in an application, you get a login screen. Then once you log in, if you log in successfully, you get another scene. Maybe the list of tasks or list of whatever it might be. And then you start doing some useful functionality that the application offers. Now, if the login fail, the application might offer you to sign up. Now, sign up will take you to another scene to provide your details so they can create an account for you. You come back to the login scene, you go through the login scene, and you move to the actual application scene. So that's why it's called the stage and scene. The stage in our case is the window, and the scene is nothing but a container where we place the root layout elements. Remember, when we create an app, a graphical user interface app, we first create a layout container, such as a VBox or an Hbox. We put the components, such as a label, a button, text field, into the layout container. We take the layout container, we put it inside the scene. We take the scene, we put it in the stage, and voila, we do show and we see the actual window. Okay? That is the idea. Now the user will start interacting with these components, such as the button, they click the button, or such as the text box, they go ahead and type some text. And then we can listen, as developers, we can listen to interesting events that these components are raising, and then we can respond to these events. We can write code to respond to events. We've seen this as an example last time. We had a label and we had a button called change color. When we click it, we generate a new color and we change the color of the label. This is an example of an event handling. This is a super important tool to understand because this is the basis of graphical user interface development. Is the idea clear? Okay. So moving on. So JavaFX application at the end of the day is made up of one or many stages, and these stages are made, we can load in these stages one scene at a time. one scene at a time. It makes sense. Yeah? In a theater, in a stage, there's only one scene playing. Then when that scene finished, they redo the setup and move to another scene. But you can load as many scenes as you wish in a particular stage. Or in a window, in a graphical interface, you can have multiple stages if you wish. Now, in a scene, you place a root layout element, such as a VBox, and inside the layout elements, you can put as many components as you wish, such as an image viewer, button, label, and so on. So it's a really some kind of tree. The root of the tree is the stage, followed by the scene, followed by the layout container, and inside the layout container, your imagination is the limit. You can put as many components as you wish. Okay, so JavaFX, as I explained, comes with a lot of UI components. You can divide, you can have, as I explained, a button, checkbox, menu item, and so on. And it also comes with a lot of layout containers, such as the one we already seen, VBox and the HBox. But there are others that we will see later on. This is just an example set of layout, sorry, not layouts, these are example UI components that comes built in JavaFX. Now, all the JavaFX components, they inherit or they are derived from this root class called control. And you can see here we have a labeled controls and we have text input controls. Labeled control, you can only see the content. You cannot change the content. So for example, a button, you can click it and see the text of it, but you cannot change it. Same for labels, same for hyperlink. But text input controls, you can see the value of that particular text field, but also you can change it if you wish. And you have other controls such as a menu bar, menu choice, and so on. And this is just to, not very critical, just to highlight that these components, they inherit from each other, and all of them inherit from a root control component. Now, the way we do this, we can get started with JavaFX programming, is when I want to create a graphical interface, I create a class, and I go ahead, that class must extend this built-in JavaFX class called application. It must extend application. That application class has an abstract method called start. And in the start, JavaFX will hand over to us, will give us an instance of stage, automatically gives us an instance of stage. And we use that stage. We go ahead and create, as I explained, the layout container, such as a VBox, add to it a couple of components, such as a label, a button, image viewer, whatever we want. And then we take the layout container, put it in the scene, and take the scene, place it in the stage, and show the stage. That's how it is done. This is so this first one is to get the stage through the start method, and then create our layout, add to it a couple of components as seen here, add in a label and a button, create a scene with the layout container as the root, and this is the width and the height. Then we set the scene on the stage, and then we show the stage. And suddenly we get the window showed up. Okay. So we've seen already this playing nicely with the color changer example that we saw together. So this whole thing is the stage. Now inside it, we have the scene. This is basically the scene. The whole thing here is the scene. And within the scene, we have a panel. And within the panel, we have a button and a label. And then we registered here, we registered with this button, we registered an event handler. When the button is clicked, we go ahead and generate a new color and change the label color. Later on, we also seen this example that we kind of seen together. In here, I just have a label and an image, two components. This is even more interesting. We will hopefully get the chance to see it together today, where I have basically stage, of course, the window. Within it, there is a scene. And there is, in this case, we will not be using the V box. Remember the V box? It takes the component and takes one beneath the other. But in here, it won't be a very nice experience to put a mount, then the text box, then let's say that percentage followed by slider. It's nicer to put them side by side. So in this case, there is another layout container called a grid container or a grid layout. And the grid is similar to Excel. You know, in Excel, what do we find in Excel? We find rows and columns. And the same thing. So the grid has rows and columns, and we can place elements in the grid. That's what we are doing. Okay. Now, a UI component is a class. The UI components that come with JavaFX are nothing but classes. Being a class, it has attributes, it has methods, and it has something new, which is events. So let's take an example of a button. A button as an example. So it's a class. So it has an attribute such as text. So for example, here the button is the text of this button component. It has also methods, let's say to set the text. I can go to button set text and change this one to click me or submit or something else. It has also another method to change the color. I can go to button set text field and put the color there. Yeah. So it as we've seen, a component has attributes, has methods, and also has events. So if the user takes some action on that component, such as clicking the button, what the button will do, it will raise an event or throw an event. So the application will be aware of this event, and us as developers, we can write some functions or methods to handle this event. So when we use a component, we first need to create it. This is an example of creating a component. In here, I'm creating a button. There is a little bug here. This is supposed to be saying press me. Yeah, because when I instantiate it, each component is a class. These components come with JavaFX. When you install it, that's what you did in that PDF I sent you. When you install JavaFX, it comes with a lot of components. Each component is a class. So button is a class, a label is a class, VBox is a class. All those are classes. So before you use them, what you do? You create an instance of it. So in here, what this line is doing, creating an instance of button and setting the text to press me, and then the button will be created.
And if we have multiple buttons or labels, we just
create more instances. Create more instances. But for example, search button, cancel button, submit button. You can create as many buttons as you wish. Yeah? Now, once you create it, if you wish, you can customize it. You can change its look and feel. For example, here, I'm changing the color of the button to blue. So the button will be blue. Then once I create a component, usually I place it in some layout, such as a VBox. Remember, why do we place components in layouts? So we don't need to worry about positioning them, how to position them in the form. The layout container will automatically position them. For example, if I use VBox as a layout container, anything I put in this VBox, whether a button or a label or whatever it might be, so they will be laid out and placed automatically one beneath the other. If I use a horizontal box and I add components to it, how these components will be laid out and how they will be displayed horizontally, one next to each other. Yeah? So that's why we use layout managers. And finally, as a final step, these components will be raising some events such as a mouse click event. And all I do as developer, I listen to the event. When it happens, I write some code. For example, in here, I'm just displaying the event details. That is the programming model, how we deal with these UI components. Now, step 1 and 3, if we wish not to do it programmatically, we can use SceneBuilder that I introduced last time. Of course, we will go through in more details today. You can do step 1 and 3 using a visual interface such as SceneBuilder. You build the user interface as if you are creating a PowerPoint presentation. You just drag your components into the design surface and start organizing them and placing them the way you wish. Okay. Then, of course, in here, there is no user interface to do it. Here, you have to really type your code, how the system should respond when the user clicks a button. So last time, for example, in this example here, we wrote some code. When the user clicks this random color button, we generate a random color, and then we change the color of the label. This is just an example. Okay, another super important concept is when we start developing this graphical user interfaces, things will start to be more interesting, a little bit more larger projects that we will be creating. It's no longer the small little Mickey Mouse projects you have been doing. A little bit more advanced, you are progressing now further. So we need to keep our project organized, well organized, so it doesn't get out of control and become too scary and too complex. So there are many ways of organizing our code. One of the most widely used way of organizing our code when it comes to graphical user interface applications is this pattern or this way of organizing called MVC, a model view controller. So what this MVC says, what you do is you take your app and break it down into 3 parts. Break it down into 3 parts. The first part is the view. What is the role of the view?
Just the actual window on the scene.
That's it. Just the actual user interface, how the user interface looks like. Yeah. And luckily in the view, we can just create it using the SceneBuilder. We don't need to code it if we don't wish to. In JavaFX, you have the flexibility. Either you can create your user interface using code, as we've seen in the earlier examples, or you can create your view using SceneBuilder. We will focus more as we move forward to SceneBuilder. So that's the view. But the view will give you a nice user interface with labels, buttons, menus, and so on. But when you click on buttons, nothing happens. Yeah? So you need to associate the view with the controller. The controller is the one that receives the events and do something about it. Yeah? Now, the controller should not supposed to do a lot of work. It should give it to the model to do the work. So what I mean here, think of a controller as like a boss or like someone executive. So for example, let's say if the Ministry of Education sends a letter or an email to the president, please tell us how many students you have per year. For each year, how many students, how many Qataris, how many non-Qataris. What do you think the president will do?
He will tell someone to do it.
Yes, they will call or send an email to the registration director, say, forward this email, can you please prepare this report by this date? Now, this director of registration, do you think they will respond directly to the minister? No. The response will go back to the president, and the president will send it to the minister. That is exactly the role of the controller. It gets the requests or an event coming from the view. It does not do the work. It gives it to whom? The model. The model will do the work, give back the result to the controller, and the controller will give the results, will pass the results to the view, and the view will display it. Yeah? Now the model, this is what we have been doing since day one in this course. It's just a normal class with attributes, methods, and these classes and these methods do interesting things, such as we saw, for example, they read from files, they do some filtering, some processing using streams, whatever you want to do. So The model is the classes that do the actual work. Are you clear on this? This is how we really break down our application. And this is what I just explained. The view, what is the role of the view? Just to get the input from the users or display some output. Also, when there is some events happening, they will notify the controller. Okay? The controller will handle the events that are raised from the view, and it will ask the model to do the work. The model is the heart of your system. This is where your business logic, your computation, your data management is taking place. Yeah? So the controller is just a glue connecting these two, connecting the view and the model. Now, in terms of developing this in Java, the model, you already know how to do this. These are normal Java classes. The view, you will use JavaFX component to build the view. Again, this is super simple, thanks to the SceneBuilder. Yeah, and then you as developer, you create a controller that will listen to events coming from the view, and then asking the model to do some work, get the results from the model, pass them to the view to show them to the user. So this is the division of work. Why this is important? What's the advantage of dividing our application into model, view, controller, MVC? Better organization. And what is the result of this better organization? Easier to understand. Thank you very much. Easier to understand, easier to maintain, easier to change. And also you can reuse at least the model. Remember, in many applications we have around us, we have multiple views for the same application. Remember Facebook as an example? How many views we have in Facebook? We have a web view and we have a mobile application view. And guess what? They do something different? They do the same. So the model behind that does the actual work is the same, shared between the two. Now, if you start mixing the view with the logic, imagine the view and the logic are mixed in one. Now, if you want to add another view, good luck with it, because you have to repeat the model, the computation again. But if you separate them, you put the view separate, the model separate, you can have multiple views. You can have JavaFX view, you can have a web view, you can have a mobile view. So your model is reusable. And this is true for many real-world applications. For example, if we take Q&B as an example, there is the web view. You can go to their website and do the transactions. There is the mobile app. And also they have a desktop app. If you go to the branch and look carefully, when that guy is working, you can see some black screen there and some scary screen they are using. Sometimes they are not using the web. They have the more advanced, maybe JavaFX application or whatever it might be. So same application, multiple views. Yeah? So MVC, this is the power of MVC. It allows us to do what? Reusability, particularly reusing the model. And this is super popular architecture or a super popular way of organizing our application. Okay? All right. Now, what I want to show you now is when I want to create the view, as I explained, I can do it in two ways, using code. When I say using code, we already seen it. Here is an example. Using code. So I create an instance of a VBox. I create an instance of label and set the label text to JavaFX rocks. I create a button and set the button text to submit. And then I add these two components to my VBox, put the VBox in the scene, put the scene in the stage, and show the stage. I don't think I should repeat this. Khalas, I think this is now super clear. That's one way of doing it. This part here of building the UI, this is using the UI, building the UI using coding, using Java coding. Another way to build the UI is using SceneBuilder, is using the SceneBuilder. Okay, now the SceneBuilder, when you use the SceneBuilder, it will create a file behind the scene. It will create a file, and this file is known as the FXML file. So it will capture whatever you are doing in the visually, whatever you're doing visually, you translate it into this special language. You don't need to worry too much about it. It's called FXML. Yeah? For you, you just use the WYSIWYG editor to create your view. Yeah? This is not something from Harry Potter. WYSIWYG, what WYSIWYG stands for? What you see is what you get. Yeah? This is an editor. What you see is what you get. What I mean, similar to PowerPoint. For example, in here, I add, let's say, a table, and I take it, drag it here, customize it the way I wish. Here it is. Change the colors. Okay, where do we design? Change the colors the way I wish. Yep. Then I'll add some shapes. Change the color of the shape. Okay. Put some text in here. And so on. Now, what you see is what you will get. If I export this to PDF and post it to GitHub, what you will see when you download my slide is what you saw in the design. Yeah? So that's what this editor does. So it's this FXML, it creates this very nice separation between the view and the actual coding, the logic behind the view. Okay. Now, once you create this FXML, the way to load it, you need to load it into a stage for you to show it. So to load it into a stage, JavaFX comes with this class called FXLoader, and you say here load. FXLoader has a static method called load, and you do this. Go to the class, go to get class, get resource, and give it the name of the XML file, FXML file, and this will load it into the root. The root here, it could be whatever layout you have used. You could have used a V-box or use whatever layout. This will be loaded into this variable root, and you use the root to do what? Create and set the scene and show the stage. So exactly the same way as we did before, except we are not creating the UI using code. We are creating the UI using SceneBuilder. Yes? SceneBuilder. Yes. SceneBuilder, we are using SceneBuilder to create the UI. The SceneBuilder, what does it create? An FXML file. What do we do with that FXML file? We load it. We get the root elements of our UI. We put it in the scene, put the scene in the stage, and we show the stage. Okay. Now, what is very, very interesting is that we can take the view, which is an FXML file, take the view, the FXML file, and link it with the controller. Yes? Now, the way to do that, I will show you visually, but basically, I think it's best I will show you visually what's going on through an example, and then we'll come back and discuss. So maybe because I won't have the chance to come back, let me just tell you this, show you this. So when you create the UI, you have two ways of doing it. You can use kind of the hard way, using code to create your UI, similar to what we did in the earlier, or you can use SceneBuilder, and this will generate the FXML. So you have the choice, either to create it by code, yeah, or to create it the simpler way using SceneBuilder. Last thing I want to remind you before we move into the practical part and show you some examples. These are the steps if you want to create a graphical interface, these are the steps in terms of process. So first thing, you need to sketch your user interface. Don't go to SceneBuilder or go to coding. Take a pen and paper and sketch how the user interface will look like. Choose the layout, choose the components, whether you use text box or radio button or checkbox or drop down. Decide that one on pen and paper. Then take that pen and paper, go to your SceneBuilder, and basically design your interface based on the sketch that you provided. And then associate, go to your view, the FXML file. The FXML file created by the SceneBuilder. Take the FXML file created by SceneBuilder, link it with the controller, and start writing event handlers. Yeah. When you are writing event handlers, if you are doing something more complex, don't do it in the controller. Put it in the model. That's how we do things. Now the sketch, this is what sketch look like. Something like this. On pen and paper. This is how my user interface will look like. Then I'll take this sketch and build it or develop it in the SceneBuilder. Yes? Okay, now let's go and see some examples together. Close this. All right, so here it is. Here is the first example, which is the welcome FX that we saw together last time. So if I just open this, you don't need to worry about this scary XML stuff that you see here. This is the FXML. You don't need to deal with it directly. Luckily, we have the SceneBuilder. Right-click and say Open in SceneBuilder. You will only see this once you go through the PDF that I provided and go through all the steps, including step 5 and 6 that I recently added. Then, if you go to the FXML file, you will see this open in SceneBuilder. Here is a nice WYSIWYG editor for me to create my SceneBuilder. And you can see here, these are the components that come with JavaFX. Many, many components. You can search for them if you wish. Button, for example. If you want to add a button, you search for it. Or if you are still thinking, say, which control, lucky one I should use, you can go through like this and choose. You hopefully already kind of did some selection in the sketch. Okay, if you already did some selection in the sketch, you will say, okay, here is my button. Yeah, take the button, drag it, place it in here. Boom, that's it. Yeah. Now I created now a component. I can go ahead and configure it. So for example, instead of just saying this, I can say hello. You can see immediately what you see, what you get. Immediately you see this. Yeah. Okay. You can customize it, change the color, change the font. It's up to you. But don't waste time on this, please. I think the out-of-the-box experience is good enough. Focus on more interesting parts. Change the text, khalas, this is more than enough. Okay, so now if I go ahead and save this, when I save this, what this SceneBuilder did, it basically, if the welcome.xml, welcome.fxml did not exist, it will create one. Because it already exists, when I save, it basically updated my builder, updated my view. Sorry, it's updated my view, which is, the view is defined in which file? Welcome.fxml, welcome.fxml. Okay, now if I go back here, reopen this, I should see my button. Can you see the button? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Here's my button here, and the text I put is in here. But don't worry too much about it. This one is kind of, it doesn't exist, if you don't want to worry about it. Okay, now, but there is one important thing. Let me first run. Here is the run. So here's my change. There is my button there. It's nicely displayed. The users now a bit disappointed and maybe pulling their hair sometimes because you're giving them this nice button, inviting them to click, and nothing is happening. Yeah. Now first of all, you see this nice separation. I cannot put any code here. I cannot put any code. In fact, in the real world, I might give this to a designer because sometimes there are people that are very, very good in designing things. We give them, that's their job. They are so scared and so annoyed with coding, they don't do any coding. We give them this to do. And some other developers, they say, oh, I have very poor artistic skills, almost zero. I cannot even draw a button. Don't take me near the visual interface. Give me the model. You see here, this MVC already gives us this nice separation. So in here, I can stay the whole day here. I cannot write any code in here. This is only for the visual part. When is the coding? In the controller first, and the controller can call them all. Yes? Okay, good. Now, so what I can do here now, I can come to this code button. Can you see the code here? You see, let me show you. I click this button. I can customize the properties. This is the properties customization. For example, I change the text. If you wish, you can change other things. But for me, I only change the text. It's good enough for me. Okay, the layout. If I want to change the positioning, most likely I will not touch it. I will let the layout container take care of it. But if you want, you can change the layout if you wish. And more importantly, the code. Can you see here the code? You saw this. Yeah? Can I write some code here? No, you cannot write code. All it says here, if you want to use this, if you want to access this button from code, you must name it. Otherwise, it will not be visible to the code. How do we give a name to our components? By going to this attribute here called FXID and give it a name. Yes? So in here, I will say handle, say hello. No, this is not my, no, sorry. This is not my event handler. This is what the FXID is? The name. You see here, look at the naming convention. Say hello button. This is a good name. The verb, the purpose of the button, and just a reminder that this is a button. This is a good naming convention. And here on action, this is what I want to, let me just save this guy. This is the action I want, no. This is the action, this is the action I want to run when the button is clicked. On action is when the user does some action. In this case, okay, because it is a button, what action can the user do? Click. There are other actions, but for now, let's just focus on the click. So in here, any action the user does on the, in this case, the click the button, this method called hello, say hello, handle say hello will be called. Yeah. So I call this handle say hello because this is the best naming convention, a good naming convention. You put handle to remind yourself that this is an event handler. Which event are we handling? The say hello event. Okay, there is one more important thing, is here, the controller. You see, on the left side, I have the document. This is the visual representation of my view. What do I have in this view? I have a VBox. Within the VBox, I have label. This is another label. You see this label, I didn't bother giving it a name. Why? I will not change it or deal with it in my code. No need to waste my time giving it a name. What about this other lucky label? I gave it a name. Why did I give it a name? Because the version is something dynamic. I mean the JavaFX version, which JavaFX version I'm using, which which Java version I'm using, I can of course go ahead and type it here. I can type Java 13 or Java 12. But maybe when you run this code, you have different version. So my UI will not be accurate. Plus, you might upgrade. So it's better to have this version something dynamic. I will write some code to set this label. Yeah. So let me quickly go there. That's why I named it. The reason why I named it is because I want to access it from code. Finally, you see here this controller. In here I put the name of the class, including the package name, the name of the class, that will be associated with this view. Yeah? So the FXML file is associated with the Java class, and this class is known as a controller. Now, what I can do if I am creating this from scratch, this user interface from scratch, I can go here to Window or somewhere, View, View. Show sample controller skeleton. Take a look at this. Here is the skeleton of my controller. So it will be a controller. It will have two attributes representing, one is the label and one is the button. Only the ones that I named will be added to my controller. And there is one more, what is there? A method for my handler. So what I can do here, I can go ahead, copy this here, go to my Java code, here is my controller, because I already started doing the controller. But let me just replace this. Yeah. Now, I'll go ahead and fix this. When you do this, please be super careful. Don't use old stuff like AWT or anything. Make sure you use JavaFX. So I use JavaFX. Is it happy? Still doesn't know what action event means. Don't use anything other than JavaFX, otherwise it will not work. Okay? So in here, this is the event handler. Now, if I just save and rerun my app, now if I click here, can you see welcome there? Yeah. So there is event handling taking place. So what I want to say is I have the visual interface defined in the FXML file. I link the FXML file with the Java class called controller. This Java class, what Java class has, it has attributes or representing the visual elements or representing the UI components, I want to interact with programmatically. Yeah. And then it also has event handlers. I write these event handlers and associate them with the UI components. So basically, the UI, which is defined in FXML, is separate from the controller, but they are interacting with each other and helping each other. Yeah? Now, there is also this method called initialize. This will be automatically executed when I first run the app, or when I create this the UI based on this FXML. And in here, in this initialize, this is where I had the chance to initialize something. So for example, I am getting the Java version, and I'm getting the JavaFX version, and setting the text of the label. Remember the text of the label? This one, this text. Is JavaFX version is 13.0.1, and Java version is Java 13. Yeah. So when the app runs, the label is already changed from whatever the text was there to the new text. How did I change the new text? Set text.